Kim Jong-un went to visit Vladimir Putin. Okay, so let me show you a little bit about how the mainstream media cover this. It's quite nauseating, as you can imagine. But first, some clips.
Здравствуйте. Привет. Рад вас видеть. Я очень рад вас видеть. Тем более, что такие события у вас были. 75 лет образования республики. 70-летие победы в Великой войне за освобождение. 75 лет восстановления дипотношений. У нас столько событий. Наш новый космодром, который мы... Да.
Now we get Kim Jong-un's. So you just heard Putin talk about the Korea War, right? Between North and South. I mean, South Korea is basically like a giant U.S. base. The money that was Iran's, that was stolen from Iran, was in was in South Korea, right? Because the Americans, they control Japan, Germany, South Korea so much that they're able to influence these sorts of decisions. So they stole Iran's money. And now they put it in Qatar, and I covered the prisoner swap, so you can watch that video if you'd like. Here's Kim Jong-un's opinion about the Ukraine war now. Take a look.
자기 주권적 권리와 또 안전 이익과 이걸 수호하기 위해서 정의 위협을 벌이고 있는데 우리는 시정일관 러시아 정부 그 당시께서 취하시는 모든 조치에 전적인 무조건적인 지지를 표명해 왔고 앞으로도 언제나 반전사주 전선에서 언제나 러시아와 함께 있을 것임을 다시 이 기회를 빌어서 확언하는 바입니다.
The anti-imperialist front, as he mentioned, I always think it's when they say that it's dangerous for North Korea to have a nuclear weapon. Well, I think the reason that they developed one in the first place is because of the Korea War, and specifically the fact that the Americans killed 20% of Korea's population. 20%. 1/5. I mean, can you imagine if someone killed 1/5 of the United States population? What do you think the United States reaction would be to that? So to make it sound like, oh, well, he just wants nuclear weapons because, he's aggressive. No, on the contrary, it's deterrence in this case. Absolutely deterrence, right? Whereas the United States is the only country in history that has used nuclear weapons, and the only times that it used them, or the only two times it used them were against civilian populations and to send a message to the Russians. So you want to talk about aggressive use of nuclear weapons? Well, that's a good example. Now here's Kirby. Let's look at what our old friend Kirby had to say.
Well, we're watching this very, very closely. We'll see what
he's watching very closely. Huh? The teacher is not happy.
The two sides say as a result of this. As I've said before, we continue to urge North Korea to meet its public commitments not to support Russia's war in Ukraine. No nation on the planet, nobody, should be helping Mr. Putin kill innocent Ukrainians. And if they decide to move forward with some sort of arms deal, well, obviously we'll take the measure of that, and we'll deal with it appropriately. As Jake Sullivan said last week, there will certainly be repercussions for North Korea, both from the United States and from the international community. As for what either side will get out of this, I think we have to watch and see what actually comes out of this discussion.
So what are either side getting out of this? I mean, if you look at the video I just showed you where they're speaking, you can see in the background you've got several satellites, right? You see where my cursor is? You've got one here, another in the right corner. There's a rocket here. So, they had a 5-hour meeting, Kim Jong-un and Putin, and I mean, what North Korea wants is specifically ballistic missile technology, whether it's for, building a spy satellite or furthering their nuclear program. I think it's both. These technologies are very, very, very similar, right? You need the same kind of technology to fire a ballistic cruise missile, just as you do to have a space program or a spy satellite, right? So Russia is willing to give that technology in certain amounts In exchange for what? For artillery shells. This whole war is being fought with artillery shells and drones. And Russia has more artillery shells than Ukraine and better drones than Ukraine. So we go back to what you saw in the press like last year, where they're making fun of Putin. They're making fun of North Korea. They're saying, oh, haha, look, Putin is buying artillery shells from North Korea. Putin is getting drones from Iran. Oh, he's so desperate. Look at Putin. Look at Russia. They have no chips left. They have to import microwaves and dishwashers to steal chips just so they can build drones. They just make up these fantastic tales. When this is actually, it's the complete opposite. Because as soon as the Iranian drones started appearing on the battlefield, then it's no longer, oh, look, these Iranian drones are so crap. No, it's, oh my God, they're devastating. Look at the damage that you're doing. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? How can these drones be so bad and Putin is desperate that he has to go and buy these crappy drones? And then at the same time, these drones are lethal and killing people and causing damage on the battlefield. Which one is it? It's both, apparently, at the same time. It's both. You're supposed to buy into both strands and strains of propaganda. And so the other thing was that, oh, he's buying artillery shells from North Korea. You idiot. You'd be lucky. You would be lucky. You should be so lucky as to have so many artillery shells as Russia. Do you want to know what is happening here, man? A few months ago, and I did many videos on this, a Ukrainian defense official was saying that the Russians are firing between 40,000 to 60,000 artillery shells a month. No, actually, let me give you one better. Look at this Western official here, what he's saying. He's saying that Russia fired 10 to 11 million rounds last year in Ukraine. This is basically World War I. This is basically World War I. You've got people in trenches blowing each other up with artillery. And of course, there are drones hovering overhead, which instead of Zeppelins, right? This is madness. This is absolutely mad. And so now the truth comes out, right? This is Reuters. I'm reporting this. This is 10 to 11 million shells in the last year alone. That is absolutely colossal. That is madness. That is madness. And the United States, their main manufacturing plant for these 155 millimeter shells is located in Scranton, in Pennsylvania, where the office is. A different type of office, right? And so they're upgrading it. They just received billions, to upgrade it. They're still not going to catch up to Russia. They still won't catch up to Russia in 10 years. Okay? So whether you want to take the Ukrainian official or you want to take the Western official who's speaking anonymously, it doesn't really matter. Whether it's 40,000 shells a day or it's 10 to 11 million shells in 2022, which would be around 27,000 shells a day. It doesn't matter. These amounts of artillery are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And so it matters very, very much that Putin is getting artillery shells from Korea. It is everything. It is everything. Artillery shells are everything. And so look at these hyenas. They're just hyenas. They're sitting there like morons, laughing and giggling like hyenas because they think that, oh, North Korea is so primitive. Oh, this technology is so primitive. Yeah, and it's winning the war. They're winning the war with this quote-unquote primitive technology. So who's laughing now? Take a look. Take a look at this.
That is desperate and has plenty of stockpiles of that ammunition and some of that weaponry because, of course, North Korea for many, many years was supported by the Soviet Union and so has a lot of that technology, or I should say that weaponry that Moscow might need right now to prolong that conflict.
John, what exactly does Putin need? How much pressure is Russia's defense ministry and industry under right now?
Well, there's reporting that they have expended as many as, 12 to 15 million artillery shells so far in this war.
How much? How much did you say? How many artillery shells?
And billion. There's reporting that they have expended as many as, 12 to 15 million.
So now you've got three people I just gave you saying approximately the same, 20 to 40 to 60,000 artillery shells a day. And he still goes on to make fun of them, which is bewildering, absolutely bewildering to me.
Artillery shells so far in this war, and they haven't actually pushed forward at all during that time. And so I think they're running low on some stocks. They know that the North Koreans have Soviet and Russian capable kind of bullets, artillery shells, and rockets and things that the Russians can use. And so in a sense, it's two things. It's a signal that Putin's, maybe digging in for the long term here. And it's also a signal that they're sort of running low on things and they need some help from North Korea.
And do you agree, John, with Jean, who uses the word desperation for Putin? Is this a new low for him?
Yes, it's a signal he's
a new low
in for the long term. But
oh man, look how stupid this guy is. He's buying the weapon that is winning him the war. He's so low. He's so desperate. Oh no.
He's got no choice. He's been unable to really change things on the battlefield. And so he's turning to North Korea. Like, listen, North Korea has the GDP of something like $18 billion a year. We've provided more assistance than that to Ukraine during this time. He had to travel in an armored train because North Korea doesn't have any aircraft that are suitable or safe enough. And so, yes, Vladimir Putin is going to gain maybe some new shells, or actually many of these shells are aging and probably duds and such, but he's doing what he has to do. He's scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
So you see this level of reporting. Here's something even funnier. Look what they were saying in the beginning of the report, like, oh God.
Up against a NATO-supplied Ukrainian counteroffensive, Russian forces need more guns and ammunition, even the old Soviet kind. And while 42% of North Koreans can't get enough food, the government maintains a large stockpile of these artillery shells and rockets.
Yeah, because you killed 1/5 of their population. I would also maintain a large stockpile of weapons and build nuclear weapons if you did that to me. It's so funny because right now people in the West, the electricity, the electricity bills have gone up, gas gone up, price of food gone up everywhere, every single country. Pick one: Germany, UK, United States. Everything is more expensive. Everyone is complaining and on edge. And now you're going to come here and tell me, oh, the poor North Koreans, look what their supreme leader is doing to them, depriving them of food. 42% of Koreans have no food. They've never even heard of food. They don't know what food is. Those poor souls, look how backwards they are. Look how primitive they are. We would never do that in the West. In the West, everything is plentiful, right? Fruit and food is bountiful and plentiful and omnipresent, and everyone is just, drinking out of gold crystal cups. What the fuck is this? You're going to sit there and tell me like all this money they're giving Ukraine, these hundreds of billions, God knows how much they've actually really given Ukraine. Then they've been giving them since 2014. That's not impacting how people eat in the West. That's not causing more poverty in the West. Think how much they could have built with that money, how much infrastructure they could have built in the West with that money that they've given Ukraine. Think how much, people will be doing better, how much their lives will be doing better. You see, this is just propaganda. This is crap. And then they want to sit there and tell you that actually it's in North Korea where the TV is propagandized, right? Where the TV is nothing but lies. No, it's this. It's what I just showed you. It's PBS NewsHour. That is the best level of propaganda. No one does propaganda better than mainstream media. Western mainstream media. They invented propaganda. They are the best. They're chefs at propaganda. North Korea look like amateurs next to PBS NewsHour. They truly do. They truly do. So in any case, if you want to look at it this way, look at how Russia getting drones from Iran impacted the war. It swung the war in Russia's favor. Does that mean Russia's going to win? Who the hell knows? We could all die tomorrow in a nuclear holocaust. I don't know. I hope not. But right now, that transaction, Iran supplying Russia with drones, or rather just simply the alliance that has been crafted recently, not just with the global south, but specifically when we talk about Russia and Iran, and this expands in many theaters like Syria, for example. There's a strong military and economic relationship between Russia and Iran and China. And so the presence of the Shahed drones, the Iranian drones, on the Ukrainian battlefield swung the war in Russia's favor. So the artillery shells, I've given you the figures. We know for a fact, and it's not just the Russians. I didn't quote a single Russian. I only quoted Ukrainians and Western officials saying publicly that the Russians are firing millions of artillery shells a year. and they're winning the war because of that. Or at least they're holding on to the territory that they took because of that firepower, right? So actually the smartest thing, the only thing you should be doing if you're the Russian president is getting more artillery shells. And keep in mind, North Korea and I was about to say the Soviet Union and Russia, they have had this long-standing relationship since the Cold War, since the times of the Soviet Union, right? Those artillery shells, why do you think they work on Soviet systems? Because a lot of them come from the Soviet Union in the first place, right? So of course, North Korea and China, they build their own derivatives. You know, they have their own variations of many howitzers, but also, of course, even the AK-47, you name it, and they made their own variation of it. But nevertheless, you know, some systems stay standard. I don't know why the presenter, the narrator, was saying like, oh, you know, these are old, aging, methods of war. What do you mean? Yeah, that's the whole point. It hasn't changed in 100 years because it works. Blowing people up with artillery shells works. It's very lethal, and it's very dangerous, and it's very, very nasty stuff. It doesn't need to change. That's the whole bloody point. Because they want to make you think like, oh, well, you need high-tech stuff to win the war in Ukraine, and you know, that's how they justify the sale of all these weapons, right? Because what they're actually doing is they're using the war as a cover to give more money to the arms industry, right? Under the guise of, oh, we have to save Ukraine, we have to help Ukraine. Ukraine is democracy this and democracy that. And so they want to give Ukraine HIMARS, they want to give Ukraine all sorts of things like just for the sake of making money out of it, right? And posturing, so making it look like, oh, well, we have the F-16s, you know, we have the M1A1s and the M1A2s, and we have the Bradleys, and we have the Leopards. Yeah, really? I'm about to talk about the M1A1s, by the way, the American tanks that have just arrived in Ukraine. Look at what happened to the German and the American, German and the, yes, well, the Bradleys, yeah, the other ones. Look at what happened to them on the battlefield. Look at that. So much for high tech. In any case, this is a long-standing relationship. North Korea, they owe the Soviet Union, they owe Russia because of, you know, previous support, and so they're happy to help. It's not just about, oh, Kim wants to buy a new satellite. Ridiculous. They like to dumb things down so much. It's like a cartoon. It's not about that. It's not about that. Don't buy into that comic book crap. It's very, very simple. Artillery shells are winning the war in Ukraine, and Putin is getting more of them. Period. Whoever can build more artillery shells, or rather manufacture more artillery shells, is going to win this war.